Yeah, today, so let's have a session on inorganic chemistry. The syllabus in inorganic chemistry is as follows. You have fifth group, sixth group elements, seventh group elements, eighth group, D and F block elements, metallurgy, and coordination compounds. In today's discussion, we are going to discuss about of group 5. So you all aware, students are expected to know all the elements of the periodic table. The elements of fifth group are nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, and bismuth. So you all aware the basic structure of the periodic table. It is as follows. Alkali metals, alkaline earth metals comes under S block, and you have the P block elements, that is 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, and 7A. Similarly, you have D block elements, that is the transition metals, as well as F block elements, that is lanthanides and actinides. So the periodic table is broadly classified into 4 types, right? So that is S block elements, P block elements, D block elements, and F block elements. So our discussion is all about the P block. So in the first year, you have learned about first group, second group, third group, and fourth group. And first and second group comes under which category? It comes under S block. Similarly, third and fourth group elements comes under P block. So the remaining P block elements, that is 5th to 8th, you are going to learn in this session, right? Yeah. Now, let us see the basic structure of periodic table in terms of electronic configuration following Aufbau principle. According to the Aufbau principle, you all aware the electronic configuration of elements are as follows. Firstly, 1s must be filled, followed by 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, 4s, 3d, 4p, 5s, 4d, 5p, 6s, and here students, after 6s you have 4f. Here 4f will be coming here. So and then 5d, 6p, 7s. After 7s you have 5f, and after 5f you have 6d. So let us have a close look at this electronic configuration of these elements. So 1s hydrogen and helium. So 1s2 will be filled. Similarly 2s, you have lithium and beryllium. 2p, you have carbon to neon. Similarly 3s, you have sodium and magnesium. 3p, you have aluminum to argon. Similarly 4s, you have potassium and calcium. And 3D, you have scandium to zinc. And 4P, you have gallium to krypton. And similarly, you have 5S, rubidium and strontium. And 4D elements, yttrium to cadmium. And 5P elements. So from indium to xenon. Similarly, 6S elements, cesium and barium. Similarly, 5D elements. So you have lanthanum to mercury. And 6P elements, you have thallium to radon. 7S elements, you have francium and radium. So here, after 6S, you have 4F. So what are the elements? Cerium to lutetium. So 58 to 72. Similarly, so after 7S, you have 4F elements, actinides, 89 to 103. 103 is lawrencium. So this is how you can learn all the elements in the periodic table. Well, so let's have a look at the basic structure again. So S block elements and P block elements together are called S block elements and P block elements together are called. So can anybody answer this? Can anybody answer? What are together they are called?
Alkali
Representative elements.
S block elements. S block elements.
Representative elements. They are called representative elements. So S block elements and P block elements together are called representative elements. It is asked in the competitive examination earlier. Well, so let's have a journey again. So let's learn again. Alkali metals, you know very well. So lithium, sodium, potassium, these are all alkali metals. Alkaline earths, you know, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium. Next, transition metals, you know very well. So these are all transition metals, 3D, 4D, and 5D. And this is F block elements. You already have a chapter named D and F block. You are going to study very extensively. Next, our concentration is on the P block elements. So it's very interesting. The P block is very interesting. Why? I'm going to come up with. Now, you can see students here. This is a boron family, boron to thallium, carbon family, carbon to lead, nitrogen family, they are called nicogens. They are called nicogens. Oxygen family, they are called chalcogens. Similarly, so halogen family, so seventh group, they are called halogens. And finally, you have inert gases or rare earths. Well, now, students, to your surprise, could you tell me, like, which blocks have metals? Which blocks have metals? The question is open for all. Which blocks have metals? Ashfaq.
Sir, both S and P.
S and P. Very good. You are half baked. Yeah. Sanjay. Mr. Sanjay. Are you in the sleepy format? Fine. Chinmay Gutta.
Sir, both S and P.
Both S and P.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So S block elements, P block elements, S block elements, D block elements, and F block elements, all are metals. All are metals. So S, D, F, it contains all metals. Okay. Well, I'll ask another question. Could you tell me what is the liquid metal in the periodic table? What is the liquid metal?
Sir, mercury.
Very good.
Mercury.
Very good. Very good. What is the liquid non-metal?
Bromine.
What is the liquid
Bromine.
non-metal?
Roman.
Very good.
Bromine.
Yes, bromine. So these two questions have been asked in the previous examination. So very good. Now, students, to your surprise, P block elements contains metals, non-metals, and metalloids. So what P block elements contains? Metals, non-metals as well as metalloids. It contains all. Yeah, well. So, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Well, let us move on to the next slide. So after understanding metalloids. So remember students, boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and polonium. These are all metalloids. So what is our area of discussion? Our area of discussion is fifth group. It contains two metalloids, that is arsenic and antimony. Students, in the first year, you have studied third group. In the third group, what is the metalloid? Boron. In the fourth group, you have a couple of metalloids, that is silicon and germanium. Similarly, in the fifth group, you have arsenic and antimony, and you are expected to memorize. Well, so let us have a clear view. You can see here, students, these are all non-metals. This shade, a violet shade, light violet shade, these are non-metals. The yellow shade is metals. And you can see there is a light pink shade. These are all metalloids. You can see. So the properties of the metalloids are in between metals and non-metals. That is the importance of metalloids. Very important. Silicon and germanium are used as semiconductor devices. So all the chips, silicon chips, particularly. So you can have a look here. And boron is used in the rocket fuel also. Well, the high-end applications. So you are expected to know. So what are gases here? So what are the gases in this periodic table? Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, chlorine, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. These are gases. Students, H2, diatomic, N2, diatomic, O2, diatomic, F2, Cl2, Br2, sorry, F2, Cl2, they are diatomic. Bromine is a liquid. Helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon. These are all radon. These are all monoatomic gases. So these are the gases. These are the metals which contains the S block, F block, and D block. And all metals are solids except mercury. Mercury is a liquid metal. And so you can see here, some of the non-metals are gases also, oxygen, nitrogen. And you have a liquid metal that is only bromine. Well, so let us move forward. So here you can see a clear demarcation of non-metal. So hydrogen is a metal or a non-metal? Hydrogen is a metal or a non-metal? Hydrogen is a non-metal. Yes, it's a non-metal. So you can see the clear demarcation of metals and non-metals. So have a look here, students. So sometimes examiner will ask you. So potassium, barium. So these two comes under metals. So what is antimony? Antimony is a metalloid. Just now you discussed. Okay. Similarly, oxygen, iodine are so non-metals. So this is how questions may be asked in the examination. Well, so now I have basically, by explaining a few slides of periodic table, so what I did is I basically make you strong. So in certain elementary aspects, that is about metals, non-metals, metalloids, and gases. Now let us focus on the fifth group elements, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. So let us start with the physical properties. Well, students, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. You are expected to know its physical state. So can anybody make a gentle guess about the physical state? Yeah. What about nitrogen physical state? You know, what is the physical state of nitrogen?
Yes.
Gas. And phosphorus is also a gas, right? You soups, how phosphorus can be gas? It is a solid.
Solid.
Arsenic, antimony, and bismuth. So the rest of them are solids. So students, you can see here, nitrogen is a gas and remaining are solids. Very good. Now let us move on to, so the next slide about the metallic character. So students, have a look here. Nitrogen, phosphorus, both are non-metals. Arsenic, antimony are metalloids, whereas Bismuth is the metal. So the only metal in the periodic table in the fifth group element is bismuth. Very, very important. This question has been asked in the complex examination. Students, mind you, if you go back and see here, see, have a look here. The metal, this is the metal, bismuth, right? And students, have a look here. You don't find metals in the, have a look here, please. Have a look here, all of you. Here, sixth group, seventh group, any metal is available. Sixth group, seventh group, any metal is available.
No, sir.
Very important. So this is a very, very notable point. The only metal in the fifth group is bismuth. Now, the metals in the fourth group are, tin and lead. So very, very important. Students are doing mistakes. So tin and lead are metals. The metals in the boron family are
Aluminium, gallium,
indium and
Indium.
gallium.
titanium.
No, yeah, not titanium, thallium. Okay, yeah, I hope you understood. So students, so please have a keen look on tin and lead, very, very important, and also bismuth, only metal in the fifth group. And after fifth group, observe here, there is no metal, please. Only non-metals and metalloids. Only non-metals and metalloids. So eighth group is only non-metals. So these are some of the points which you are expected to memorize. Now, students, very interesting point. See, as you nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. As you go down, what is happening to the electropositive character or metallic character? As you go down, metallic character is increasing. So why? Because atomic radius is increasing, IP is decreasing. So try to please make a note of this important point. Well, so let us understand the electronic configuration of fifth group elements. So students, have a look here. Regarding the electronic configuration, the fifth group elements are having half-filled electronic configuration, that is NH2 and P3. So very, very important. So because of this half-filled electronic configuration, you know very well, it is difficult to remove the outermost electron. Thereby, you can expect a high IP. So students, have a look here. So they're all 2p3, 3p3, 4p3, 5p3, and 6p3. So electronic configuration is a half-filled in this case. Now, let us have another physical property, that is atomic radius. Students, have a look here. Nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. So I would like to ask some questions. In general, as you go down, atomic radius increasing. Why atomic radius increasing? Have a look here. N is equal to 2, N is equal to 3, N is equal to 4, N is equal to 5, N is equal to 6. So as you go down, what is happening to the N value? N value is increasing. So when N value increases, atomic radius increases. Why? Anybody else? Why?
So number of shells is increasing.
Decreases.
Yeah, why? I'm asking. Come on.
The
Dikshita,
number of shells.
Dikshita, could you answer?
So nuclear attraction on the last cell decreases.
Okay, fine. Sushant,
Sir, sir, as going down the group, the electrons will be adding, sir. In each cell, a new electron will be added, sir. So the distance increases, sir.
okay. Abhijita. Abhijita. Sai Ganesh.
Sir,
Could you answer why the N increases, atomic radius increases?
sir, because shells increases.
No, you have to tell technically in terms of radius. Okay, mute it. Anushka? Anushka?
Sir, I think because the shell increases.
No, you have to tell technically. Ritu Sujana. Okay, well, I'm going to answer this. So have a look here. R is equal to 0.529 into n square by z. Do you agree or not? So R is directly proportional to n square. So naturally radius increases. Now, my question is, here have a look here. 70 and 110. Nitrogen to phosphorus, the increase is more here. The increase is more. Considerable increase is there, atomic radius. Now, here phosphorus to arsenic and arsenic to antimony. And you can see here antimony to bismuth. Very less increase is there. Why?
So
Your answer is,
lanthanide configuration.
your answer is there. Because of the D and F electrons are coming, they have poor shielding. So because of the poor shielding of D and F electrons, naturally, what happens? So the increase is less here, but here increase is more. You can see the electronic configuration here. If you see the electronic configuration, students have a look here. So here 4D is coming. Here 3D is coming. Here 4F and 5D both are coming. There is a shielding associated with the 4F and 5D electrons. So here have a look here. Here 4D and 5D, 4F and 5D electrons are coming. So because of the poor shielding, what's happening because of the poor shielding? Atomic radius, atomic radius slightly decreases. So they are easily attracted by the nucleus. So you can see there is not a significant increase in the radius, but here there is a significant increase. But here increase is not so significant. Why? Because there is a poor shielding of, have a look here. What orbitals? 3D and 4D. So this point is very, very important. This reasoning is very, very important for the competitive examination. Mind you, please. Okay. So next, let us move forward. So at the outset, let us learn at the outset what happens. At the outset, students, as you go across the period, what is happening? Atomic radius decreases because of shielding effect. So as you effective nuclear charge, effective nuclear charge, as you go down, n value is increasing. So this is just to enable your understanding. So you can see here the radius of different things have been given. So in the complete periodic table, alkali metals are having larger radius. That's why they form weak metallic bonding. That's why they are very soft. I hope you understood. But boron is small in size. That's why it's pretty hard. Even carbon, diamond, you see, diamond is the hardest substance. So a question is there. So try to understand, students. Yeah. Now, so let us move forward about the next. So you have learned so far about the electronic configuration as well as atomic radius. Now look at another important physical property, that is boiling point. So let us understand about the boiling point. So have a look here. Now, one second. So have a look here, students. Regarding the boiling point, as you go down, the boiling point is increasing. As you go down, what is happening? The boiling point is increasing, right? So students, have a look here. Why there is an increase in the boiling point? It's very simple. So as you go down, atomic radius is increasing. When atomic radius increase, there operates intermolecular attraction. So because of the size and mass, so mass is also increasing, molecular weight is also increasing. So intermolecular forces increases. That's why they have higher boiling point. Similarly, melting point. Melting point here slightly, there is an anomaly here. So here you can observe there is an increase in the melting point, nitrogen to arsenic, and from arsenic it decreases. It is due to its structure, crystal structure. This is due to its structure. Now, ionization enthalpy. So ionization enthalpy is a very, very important concept. So as far as competitive examinations are considered. So students, have a look here. Nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. When compared to the sixth group, so they are having high ionization enthalpies because they are half filled. The first IP of so nitrogen is greater than oxygen. You already know it because students, have a look here. So ionization enthalpy. So as you go down, what happens? As you go down, what happens? Ionization enthalpy decreases. So metallic character increases. So when metallic character is increasing, so that's why it is bismuth is a metal. So arsenic, antimony are metalloids, and nitrogen, phosphorus are non-metals. So ionization enthalpy is a very important tool to measure. So to measure the electropositive character. So as you go down, IP decreases, metallic character increases. So bismuth is a metal. So have a look here. So these are non-metals, nitrogen, phosphorus are non-metals. So whereas bismuth is a metal because of it low IP. Have a look here. Next. So students, already explained for you the electronic configuration. So that is, they are half filled. So because of this half filled electronic configuration, naturally they have some extra stability. Let us move on to the next physical property. So you can see here. So the size as you go across, the size decreases. As the size decreases, IP increases. IP increases. When IP increases, non-metallic character increases. That is the reason why in the P block elements you have non-metals. So P block contains the very important feature is P block is having all the three metals, non-metals, and metalloids. Yeah. Whereas S block is having S block, D block, and F block all are having metals only. But P block is the only block which contains all the three, that is metals, metalloids, and non-metals. So students, density. As you are aware, density is equal to mass by volume. So both mass and volume are increasing. Naturally, it is showing a regular trend. Naturally, bismuth is also a metal, and metal is naturally having, is having a high density of 9.81. Now, electronegativity values, very, very important. So what is electronegativity? Students, electronegativity is all about tendency of an electron pair to attract towards itself. So that is what is all about electronegativity. Do you agree or not? Yeah. Now, so let us see here. Nitrogen is small size. Naturally, as it is having small size, its nucleus attracts the electron pair readily. That's why it is having electronegativity 3.0, which is also equal to chlorine. So chlorine is having 3.0, nitrogen is also having 3.0. So my question is, so between chlorine and nitrogen, which is more electronegative? Which is more electronegative? So could you answer? Karthik Bardwaj, could you answer this?
So I can get
Be receptive. Nitrogen is having electronegativity 3.0. Chlorine is also having electronegativity 3.0. My question is, as both are having, nitrogen and chlorine are having the same electronegative values, which is more electronegative between chlorine and nitrogen? Hasini, could you answer this?
so chlorine is more electronegative.
Chlorine. Your answer is chlorine. Okay, mute it. I'll tell you the answer. Hasini,
Sir, chlorine.
chlorine. Ashashvi,
Sir, chlorine.
Vasudev?
Sir, chlorine.
Okay. The answer is nitrogen. Students, very simple. Nitrogen and chlorine. Nitrogen is having small size. The reason is nitrogen electronic configuration is 2p3, whereas chlorine electronic configuration is 3p5. It is a 3p orbital. It is a 2p orbital. Naturally, so 2p orbital means the outermost orbit is 2p. So nitrogen is having small size. So it has more tendency to attract the shade pair towards itself. So nitrogen is more electronegative than chlorine, even though both are having same electronegative values. So I hope you'll make a note and you remember this concept. Now, it's my duty to remind you, so the basic electronegative values of the periodic table. The top is, fluorine. You can see here, students, nitrogen and chlorine are having 3. So these 3 elements, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, of course, chlorine also, they are having the topmost. So more than 3, highest in the periodic table. So nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and chlorine. Now, if you see here, 0.5 difference is there. Boron plus 0.5 is carbon, plus 0.5 is nitrogen, plus 0.5 is, I hope you understood. Now, here also you can see, observe students here. So to the boron, add 0.5. So lithium, add 0.5, you get beryllium. Beryllium, add 0.5, you'll be getting boron. Add 0.5, you get carbon. Add 0.5, you get nitrogen. Add 0.5, you get 3.5. I hope you understood. So as you go down, lithium to cesium, so minus 0.1. So you can see here 0.9, 0.8, 0.8, 0.7. I hope you understood. So I request you to understand this trend. Particularly, you have to memorize these values, at least a boron family to, halogens. You have to remember. For example, carbon and silicon, 2.5, 1.8. You have to remember. Oxygen, sulfur, 3.5 and 2.5. Students, carbon and sulfur are having the same electronegative values, and carbon will get the priority. Carbon is more electronegative than sulfur because carbon is small size. So I request to remember these values. It will be very, very helpful. So sometimes you know very well, you have to know the nature of the bond. When the electronegative difference of these 2 atoms is greater than 1.7, is going to be ionic. If it is less than 1.7, it may be polar covalent or it may be non-polar molecule. So this electronegativity difference will help you a lot in understanding the dipole moment, in understanding the reactivity, polarity, etc. Now, students, let us understand electron affinities. So let us understand today electron affinities. So students, have a look. Very, very important. There are 5 cases I explained in the first year. So one case is chlorine and fluorine. Chlorine is having more electronegativity than fluorine because inter-electronic repulsions are observed in fluorine because of small size. Same thing. Oxygen is less than sulfur because inter-electronic repulsions are there. So here nitrogen is 0, phosphorus, because nitrogen half-filled configuration. Electronic configuration is half-filled, and that to small size, it is very difficult to add an electron, nitrogen. That is the reason why phosphorus is greater than, tendency to add an electron for the phosphorus is greater than nitrogen. Is very, very important competitive point of view. And you know very well, students, so inert gases are 0. Inert gases are 0 because they are fully filled. They are fully filled. So here, have a look, students. So these what so far I explained. As you go across, you can see electron affinity and electronegativity values are decreasing. They decrease basically. Do you agree or not? So as you go down, electron negativity, what happens? Electron negativity decreases. As you go across, electron affinity and electron negativity increases. Why? Because size decreases. When size decreases, nucleus is nearby. Naturally, you can. When the nucleus is nearer, you can easily attract an electron shade pair. So I hope you understood this concept. Next is about allotropy. So students, you know very well what is allotropy is all about. So except nitrogen and bismuth, because students, very, very important point, metals will not show allotropy. Only non-metals will show allotropy. So nitrogen and bismuth will not show, and remaining will show allotropy. And in your syllabus, allotropy of phosphorus is there in the syllabus. Very, very important. Phosphorus has 3 types of allotropes: white phosphorus, red phosphorus, and black phosphorus. Similarly, arsenic has yellow or gray. Similarly, antimony has yellow and silvery gray. Now, so these are some of the points here. So nitrogen generally, so they don't have, but in the solid state, it is having some allotropes, that is cubic crystalline and hexagonal crystalline. So already I explained to you, phosphorus has variety of allotropes: white, yellow, red, black. Also different types are there: alpha black, beta black, and all. So let us observe these allotropes. See, phosphorus is P4. This is white phosphorus, and red phosphorus is polymeric. And you can see the cubical structure. This is black phosphorus. So they are very important. These we'll discuss in the following classes. So this P4 is a white phosphorus. You can see it is stored in. So why you are storing and all we'll discuss. So this white phosphorus is having tetrahedral structure. You can see here the 4 atoms are present in the corners. Students, the white phosphorus is very reactive. Why? What is the angle here? 60 degrees. What should be the angle? 109 degrees, 28 minutes. Here the angle should be 108 degrees, 109 degrees, 28 minutes. The angle is 60 only. There is a strain. That's why white phosphorus is very explosive, very reactive form. So because of there is a bond angle strain. Very important. It is insoluble in water, but is soluble in carbon disulfide. This question has been asked in many competitive examination. It glows in the dark. Okay. So if you apply the phosphorus in your body and night and all, I mean, you'll glow. Yeah. Now it dissolves in boiling NaOH, and you get this particular reaction is a disproportionation reaction. It's a very, very important reaction. The significance of this reaction I'll explain in the following classes. Yeah, it's a very interesting reaction. So why it is important and all I'll explain in the following classes. So P4 plus NaOH gives rise to PH3 plus NaH2O2. It is a disproportionation reaction, and also it catches fire easily. That because it is very reactive. So this is the red phosphorus, polymeric in nature, and it is stable. It is not, I mean, it is stable because of its polymeric nature. And alpha black, when red phosphorus, if you heat in a sealed tube, so naturally at 803 Kelvin, please mute your phone. Please mute. Similarly, so other forms of phosphorus I explained already, metallic and gray. So antimony are yellow and metallic form. Explosive form is also available. So now this is how the gray arsenic structure, black arsenic structure, these are not important. Just you know that it exists, some allotropes exist here. Similarly, this is yellow arsenic. Well, so let us understand about catenation. So what is the meaning of catenation? Anybody can, what is the meaning of catenation? What is the meaning of catenation? Anybody?
So self-linkage of atoms.
Yes, it's a self-linkage of atoms. So the self-linkage depends on bond energy. Very, very important. Please have a close look at the bond energies. 345, carbon is highest. That is the reason why the organic chemistry evolved. C14, C20, carbon linkage is possible. Why? Because the carbon is highest. Many times this question is asked when compared with carbon. These questions will be asked: carbon, phosphorus, nitrogen, arsenic, oxygen, like that questions will be asked. So carbon is having highest bond energy. That's why the self-linkage is stable and feasible. Phosphorus is 201, nitrogen is 167. That is the one of the prime reason nitrogen has less tendency so to catenate. So self-linkage. So very, very important. So let us see here nitrogen. If you see the covalency of nitrogen, it is not 5. Why? Because it is lacking d orbitals. Whereas phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, and bismuth, they are having d orbitals. So I mean +5 oxidation state exists for others, and that is covalency is 5. And sometimes in complexes also 6 is also feasible. 6 is also feasible, but Nitrogen and all, it exhibits only covalency of 4. What is that? Can anybody tell one compound? Covalency of 4 nitrogen.
NH4 plus.
NH4 plus, very good, NH4 plus. So these all about, and we'll discuss these compounds in the following classes. So here you can see here pyramidal structure, PCl5, trigonal bipyramidal, PCl5, PCl3 here, they are the halides. And so most important episode we are getting into, that is hydrides. The hydrides of nitrogen is one of the most potential topic for the competitive examination. These hydrides are having pyramidal structure like nitrogen, right? Ammonia. So what are these hydrides? So NH ammonia, phosphine, arsine, stilbene, bismuthine. So these stilbene, not stibine, the stilbene. So these are called hydrides. Now have a look, students. So these 2 questions have been asked in the examination. What about the stability of hydrides? You can see here, as you go down this way, that is nitrogen to bismuth, as you go down this way, so the hydrides, what happens? The stability decreases. The stability decreases. Why? Because boron is larger size. So BH bond is weak. BH bond is weak because boron is larger size. Naturally, hydrogen bismuth bond will be weak. Students, very important point. So that's why BiH3 is a good reducing agent. So reducing ability increases as you go down because it can give readily H minus. Because BiH bond is weak, so it can readily give H minus. So NH3 is a weak reducing agent. BiH3 is a strong reducing agent. But stability is considered NH3 is strong. BiH3 is weak. I told you why. Because students, have a look here. So thermal stability, if you see, it's very weak. BiH bond is weak. You can see the thermal stability. Nitrogen is small, hydrogen is small. So bond dissociation energy is strong. Naturally, so hydrates are stable, NH3 is stable than, BH3 is stable than, ASH3 is stable than, SBH3 is stable than BiH3. So bond dissociation energy also decreases as size increases. Very, very important. Next, another point about bond angles. Very, very interesting. Ammonia to bismuthine. So bond angle decreases. You have studied in the chemical bonding. So the central atom electronegativity increases, bond angle increases because repulsion increases. You can see here. So this is having more electronegativity. So naturally electronegativity will be concentrating here. So there will be a repulsion. Here repulsion will be less. That's why bond angle decreases. Already you have studied earlier. Next, students. So that is the reason why the bond angles is considered. Ammonia is greater than, phosphine is greater than, arsine is greater than, stilbene is greater than bismuthine. Now, students, actually you have studied these hydrides in hydrogen and its compounds, right? So I want to basically recap once. So the yellow ones are called ionic hydrides. So you have different type of hydrides. There is a hydrate gap. You can see here, what are the hydrates of 4th group? CH4, SH4, germane, SNH4. Now, students, what are the hydrates of oxygen family? Water, H2S, H2SC, H2TE. So what are the hydrates of halogens? HF, HCl, HBr, halo acids, HI. So these red ones are called Lewis acids. Why they are Lewis acid, students? Because they are short of 2 electrons. These are electron deficient hydrides. These are precise hydrides. These are sufficient hydrides. You know very well. That's why they are bases. They are electron deficient. That's why they are electron Lewis acids, electron deficient. So these are precise hydrides. So these are electron rich. That's why they are Lewis bases. They are Lewis bases. So here I would like to see, students. Here different type of hydrates are there. So these are called first group and second group hydrates are called ionic hydrates, but there is an exception. Beryllium and magnesium are polymeric in nature. They are polymeric in nature. So you can see, you know very well, non-metals forms covalent bonds. Metals forms ionic bonds. That's why they are ionic hydrates. So non-metal forms covalent bonds. That's why they are called covalent hydrates because they share, but these will transfer. Very interesting subject in chemistry. Now, This is the hydrate gap. Very, very important. They ask you what is hydrate gap. So 7th, 8th groups. See, there are groups from 1 to 18. Okay. 7th A is different. 1 to 18 groups are there as per the modern periodic table. So elements of 7th, 8th, 9th do not form hydrates. This is called hydrate gap. Many times it is asked in the competitive examination. You can see the other D block elements forms metallic hydrates. And you know, first group elements and second group elements form ionic hydrates, and these will form covalent hydrates. So I hope you understood this concept. So this is what is the hydrate gap is all about. Please remember this. Now, very interesting. The boiling points. So I don't want to get into the boiling points of so the other things. So, but I would like to highlight the boiling point of only ammonia. So you can see students here, ammonia is having higher boiling point among other hydrates. Why? Because of hydrogen bonding. Actually, as the molecular mass increases, what should happen? So as the boiling point should increase, but ammonia is having an exception. It is having high boiling point. So today I would like to end this session. So up to hydrates and remaining physical properties, I'm going to resume in the following classes. So I open the session for discussion. Students, any doubts? Any doubts? Mr. Shushant. Yeah. Could you tell me why ammonia is having high boiling point?
So because its hydration energy is low.
Jayashree. Jennifer. Why ammonia is having high boiling point in the other hydrates? Are you there or not? Rasagna?
So because of hydrogen bonding.
Yes, because of hydrogen bonding. Yeah. Now, I'll ask some questions. What is hydrate gap? Anushka, which elements have hydrate gap? Pranita, Soumya? Mahapragna?
So,
Yeah. Which elements is having hydrate gap?
sir, in the D block,
So please be
cobalt,
attentive, and next time
magnesium,
onwards, I'll conduct only
iron.
45 minutes, and 15 minutes I'll ask questions from next session onwards. So anyhow, thanks for bearing. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, see you.